And welcome back to the eSellerCafe e-commerce news show. I am your host, Dave, and as always, I'm joined by Richard. And literally, just before we had this call, just before we hit go live, I said, I'm just going to turn my phone on silent because something always ends up pinging. And this time,
I thought I had turned mine on silent, and guess what? It's still. I'm going to throw it out the window.
So anyway, how are you, Richard? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So it was a busy week last week. We have the super lightning round.
I know. And again, for anyone who is new to this, again, we now have a podcast. So this, you may be watching us live on YouTube. You may be listening to us over on iTunes or also on your smart device using TuneIn. So this is all new stuff. There will be a post out this week on the site explaining about the new eSellerCafe News Show podcast. It is this, what you're listening to right now is the podcast, but we've given it to you in a podcast format over on iTunes and using TuneIn, which means you can actually use it. You can listen to us on your Amazon devices. So your Amazon Echo, your Echo Dot, whatever it may be.
So if you're in Los Angeles and you're on the 405 going, there we go. You can kill an hour with us.
Exactly.
If you're in England on the M25, you can kill an hour with us.
Exactly.
If you're in New York somewhere on probably I-95, you can kill an hour with us.
Wherever you are, you have no excuse not to join us and listening to the latest from the world of e-commerce. Now, as Richard rightly said, this week was a busy week. I thought we'd be like quietening down now on the run up to Black Friday. All the businesses would be busy, getting ready for that. But no, this is a bit of a monster one today. And as Richard said, it will be a super lightning round. So for anyone who's new, who doesn't know the way around, what we do is we have a lightning round where we give you a very sort of TLDR heads up of some of the news from this week. And then towards the end, we will discuss two of the more important pieces in more detail, have a bit of a chat about them. Feel free, if you're joining us live over on YouTube, feel free to jump in the comments section as well, say hello and get involved. And if you're listening on the podcast, just enjoy, just sit back. And if you, if you've got any questions or comments, you can always reach us over at eSellerCafe.com. And with that said, I think that's the intros out of the way. And quickly, 49 days until Christmas, 18 days until Black Friday. That has come around really quickly this year. And with that said, let's get started right into the lightning round. Richard, over to you.
Yeah, all right. eBay Partner Network, that's the affiliate program that eBay runs. They improved the advertising tools, made it a lot easier. As a matter of fact, if you run a blog or something like that, you can now just put in some JavaScript and converts anytime you say eBay or ebay.com into a link. So it's kind of a cool little item. I think it's even, you can narrow it down to your own products as well. So if you're running a blog on your website, and you're mentioning eBay, again, why not? I mean, I know you want to keep them on your website, but if people are reading the blog, get the sale one way or another. So there's, and you're getting, here's the good things, you're getting an affiliate fee kickback on your own sale, which is kind of reduces the cost of doing, listing on eBay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of nice. UPS and FedEx, these are actually two stories, and I'll combine them into one. UPS and FedEx both announced rate increases. The only thing is that I thought it was weird. UPS announced them going effective December 24th, Christmas Eve, while FedEx says, well, we'll wait till January 1st. I thought in years past it was always January 1st for both of them. But there we go, 5 point something. It's, there's not supposed to be any collusion. They're not supposed to talk to each other, but somehow the price increases every year are the same. So I don't understand, It's sort of...
We'll say allegedly, just so we can
allegedly, allegedly. Yeah, allegedly, that's supposed to. Amazon's push for grocery items is continuing. Now they're actually including marketplace sellers. They're providing a one-year promotion where they're going to give a pretty hefty discount, almost half off the fee for items that are under $15. So if you have non-perishables, that's what the sellers they're aiming at is the non-perishables. This might be worth for you to look at. Again, there's a little bit give and take because if it's a low dollar item, there's some FBA fees that are not going to get discounted. It's only the final value fee. So, you know, it's but you know, anytime you can save a couple bucks, and if this is in your wheelhouse, why not take advantage of it, especially if you're trying to use Amazon already to sell for your products through there. Actually, off to you now.
Yeah, it's onto my little news pieces. So again, keeping this really high level, and as always, guys, everything that we're talking about right now, the links are down below if you're watching on YouTube. In the description, just click the little show more box, and all the links will open up. If you're listening to the podcast, head over to eSellerCafe.com, and all of the links will be in there. Now, with that said, drones and robotics increased usage in e-commerce. And commerce in general. This is news that, again, more big warehouse companies are looking at the usage of drones in order to speed up the pick, pack, and dispatch process. Again, there's a company called Hardis, and they are actually working on this sort of utilizing drones in a warehouse. Very interesting technology. Apparently, it will reduce human error, and also another effect of that is it will also reduce jobs, as drones can work a lot quicker, more efficiently than humans could do. So yeah, news on that, how drones and robotics are making the way more and more into e-commerce and you know, commerce in general.
No carrier pigeons, no.
Not carrier pigeons just yet, no. I feel we're going backwards a little bit.
Well, wouldn't that be the environmentally friendly version? You'd carrier pigeons?
Absolutely would, unless, you know, there was a Toyota Prius sort of drone, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Hey, we all know Richard likes a Prius. Next up, the UK high street experiences a sales crash. This was reported that in October 2017, the UK high street saw quite a sharp decline in sales on previous year. Obviously, there's a number of reasons playing effect to that. The main one, most likely, is the Brexit impact. Obviously, the pound is no longer worth what it used to be worth, and inflation and all the rest of it, less disposable income for households. It is also worth noting that we're not seeing the same crash online, only seeing it in the high street. So what does that tell you? I think there's still disposable income around, just less people are spending it on the high street. As e-commerce is answering more of the convenience questions, the high street is becoming less of a attractive sales means.
Less convenient.
Yeah, exactly. It's becoming less convenient. Yeah. Next up, cross-border payments to be made easier in Europe. This is news that the, let me get this right, the European Banking Authority, or the EBA, because we love an acronym, is bringing out this new legislation which is going to make banking between lots of European countries easier, with the starting PSD2, which makes the sharing of data easier between different banks and other financial institutions, but also is going to make it easier for other institutions, not only banks, to get involved in the payment system. So this is, I've had 2 letters from 2 different banks that I work with, a business one and a personal one, basically explaining the exact same thing and how this is going to impact me. Not at all, but ultimately it's going to make things easier. So one to be aware of. Next up, more adults will own a smartphone next year. This is maybe not surprising when you put it that way, but I mean, I just take it for granted. I just presume all adults these days, you know, have a smartphone, but apparently not. So again, I guess I have to think about my grandparents, don't have a smartphone. So again, as that generational shift continues, we will see more adults with more and more Gen Xers and Gen Zers with smartphones as well. So again, the importance of mobile e-commerce is only going to get bigger. It's only getting more important. And again, if you haven't taken anything from the fact that eBay now designs everything mobile first in mind, you should perhaps be thinking about the same for your website at least. Next up, augmented reality eyewear might be the next big thing. AR is certainly taking, it's the one thing which is getting most attention in e-commerce right now. I know we've got an interesting piece that Richard wrote about Amazon coming up in a little while, which again is fascinating. I think we covered it last week as well with something Shopify or a seller on Shopify was doing. It is incredible, and the next generation of that is, again, smart devices. Is it eyewear? Think Google Glass, but more AR built in. It could be a thing. Who knows? Next up, using surveys to find blog topics for your audience. Now, this isn't necessarily just blog topics. It is how literally ask your audience what they need to know. What do they want to know? How can you help them? Ask them. Do a survey and answer the questions. That is, again, it isn't rocket science, but you'd be surprised how many businesses do not do that. They think they know what their audience wants, but what their audience actually wants can be a very different thing. Ask them. Using surveys to find blog topics to help your audience is a fantastic way to really converse with them on a much more appropriate level for them. And as such, they're most likely to take an affirmative action based upon that. So, yeah, nice little fun piece there. And back over to you, Richard.
Yeah, and on that note there, remember, you can do the surveys on Facebook or Twitter too. So it doesn't matter where you do them. Etsy launches a new tool for sellers to quickly share products on social media. They are now having a tool straight from the listing that allow you, or from maybe it's actually from their selling manager, to allow you to list straight to social media. Kind of a nice, easy integration. I think it's pretty cool, especially if you're not used to using social media managers or don't want to use social media managers. I think it's a great little addition. I don't think Amazon or eBay offer that. So that's actually something that Etsy created that I don't think is available on the other marketplaces. A lot of talk about unattended delivery lately, and actually the first unattended delivery that happened on a grand scale that wasn't a quote-unquote test was Latch, and they did it with Jet.com, and it happened in New York City. What is a little curious about this one is that, Jet.com is obviously owned by Walmart, and Walmart just went out about a month ago making a deal with August and Deliv to do this, and you're like, it's a little confusing, their strategy when it comes to delivery, because it seems like they have one organization doing this, and then they have somebody else doing that, and they do the same thing, with Walmart. When you look at it, in a couple cities they're testing this method, in a couple cities they're testing that method. You kind of at the point where, okay, guys, stop testing. You got to now just roll out something. Do you think
this is like Walmart doing some like real life A/B tests?
It's got to be that. It's the only thing that makes sense, because I found that they have been working with this company to do this, and especially in the New York market, which is very important to them, which is very hard for them because they can't put up superstores there. Yeah. So it makes sense to this company does deliveries to buildings. They seem to specialize. Latch seems to specialize to get into buildings. They work with building owners, and so I'm not. It doesn't appear to be lockers involved at all, but it appears to trying to make sure that they get access to the building authorized by the owners and or the multi-tenant building managers. Obviously, there's some rules there that might apply, and so they've taken an interesting approach. Now, the other side is Walmart just bought a company called Parcel in New York that was doing something similar, not deliveries unattended, but offering deliveries at a more convenient time for multi-tenant dwellers. So it's it seems like it's an A, B, C, D, E, F, and G testing going on to me. It's just a lot of different ways. We don't have any Australian stories, but this was kind of an interesting one. Sendle, which is a startup, it's only been a few years old. They really have grown tremendously in Australia, and they made a deal with DHL to expand now for Australian shippers to be able to ship globally using the DHL network. So that's a nice little benefit. They seem to be really well liked. They have a good reputation in Australia, and so we'll see where that goes. eBay offers seller protection to sellers impacted by storms in the Northeast. There was a few thunderstorms and heavy rainfalls up in the northeastern United States. So eBay put out a little release that if you are in those affected areas, they will offer some seller protections on that. I might have a piece about seller protections down the road, which actually, just so you know, turned out not correctly like it's supposed to. Effectively, you have to always follow up with eBay when it comes to these seller protections. Always look at your dashboard. BigCommerce and Square, that's the payment processor Square, offering a financing option for sellers. This is a little bit like PayPal working capital, but using Square. So if you don't use PayPal, but you're using the Square payment system, and with BigCommerce, you can now get a loan based upon your sales. So short-term working capital, got to be careful how to use it. Just a new fintech corporation collaboration, basically. Just another option to cover maybe a couple months of buying up inventory for heavy holiday seasons or heavy seasons like we have right now. Then BigCommerce did another deal with Swell, which is a rewards program, points program, based where you, as a seller, can offer points for retweeting for Facebook or points for purchases, and as customers accumulate points, then they can convert them into dollars or credits. Now with Swell, that's all the BigCommerce. If you run a BigCommerce store, it's all nicely integrated. The base plan is pretty inexpensive, $29, but once you do get heavy with it, it gets a little bit expensive on I think. But again, it all depends on what you're selling. It definitely makes a lot of sense to hand over the rewards program to someone else to manage, because there are some plugins for various websites, like Magento and stuff, have rewards plugins, but they can get a little unwieldy maybe over time. And eBay then also announced it brought some additional organization to its watch list. This is mostly for buyers. There is a little point here for sellers in it. If a buyer put stuff on a watch list in the old days, you ended up with this long list. You could have 30, 40, 50 things on your watch list, and then you're trying to go back and say, okay, I was watching what and why. And especially, let's say you're looking for fashion items and you saw 4 or 5 items that are similar, and you keep searching until you find the right one, and then you compare them at the very end. Well, now eBay will allow you to put them in the categories, and it appears they're going to use their categories system to do that. So if you're selling women's shoes, make sure that they are in the category for women's shoes, not in men's shoes, because that can easily happen if you're using templates. Just from a seller's point of view, I think the fact that they upgraded this watch list, it's a good idea to go back into your categorization. Also, maybe some of your listings could fit into multiple categories, and so that's something to look at as well. And then eBay announced promoted listings, both for eBay Motors parts and accessories, which was not available until just last week. Same thing, promoted listings were not available for eBay.ca, the Canadian side of Canadian sellers could promote their listings in the US if they listed them on eBay.com, which a lot of Canadian sellers do, but they had no way to promote them on eBay.ca on the Canadian website. So Canadian sellers can do that as well. The eBay Motors promoted listing, I believe, appears to be only for the US, because that's technically the only motors part, although they're starting to sort of add motors to Canada and other areas and calling it motors as well. But it appears that this is only for the US to start with. So more promoted listings should mean more third-party banners should disappear from the eBay platform.
Curious. Back over to me again, going super quick. We wrote a piece about the important ranking factors for Google. Again, this is one which can often get misconstrued with lots of SEO experts telling you many different things. We actually break down for you like the main things that you need to be aware of when ranking either a blog, your website, an e-commerce website, whatever it may be, the key things that Google are looking out for. Next up, we actually got reached out to by a company called Red Stag Fulfillment. They had done this lovely infographic on the top 20 ways to increase e-commerce conversion. E-commerce conversion, whether you know it or not, is probably one of the key areas that you should know about in your business. And the average conversion rate for most e-commerce businesses is less than 5%, which sounds incredibly low, because it is. But in saying that, if yours is at 2%, you can actually put some very simple things in place that will which will most likely help it get closer to that 4 or 5%. And they've included the top 20 ways to aid your e-commerce conversion. Super nice infographic. So thank you to the guys at Red Stag Fulfillment for sending that over. We also had another piece on Google reviews, or GSR, Google Seller Reviews, and how they can be useful for e-commerce websites. Again, if you're not utilizing reviews, then Google Trusted Sites is something to look into. There are criteria you need to meet, but if you don't, then things like FIFO, Trustpilot, and a whole host of others, it gives you that social proof in that, you know, your products are good. And finally, from me, we have the World First Online Sellers Survey 2017. This is from the guys over at World First who are opening up this seller survey. And by filling it out, you automatically get entered into a prize draw for a $100 Amazon gift card. I believe there's 5 prizes that are given away. Just for filling in a little bit of information about your business and all that sort of stuff. They won't ask anything too personal. It's just to give them an idea of the current scale, the scope of e-commerce sellers in the United States. And by filling out this survey, it will help them better provide you with services that you require. So again, link to that in the description or over on eSellerCafe.com. And back to you, Richard.
A lot of interest. Like, World First does a lot of interesting things.
Oh, they do. I love
with the surveys and the results that they get from them. You know, it's always interesting.
Yeah, they're very. What I like about World First is they're very interactive. They want to reach out. They want to talk. They are very open in that regard, and I take my hat off to them for any business. You know, you think about Amazon, they're very much not like that. But, you know, I think for World First to be like that and literally trying to build that conversation, that engagement with their users is a great thing. So, hat tip to World First.
Shopify introduces buy online for Shopify POS, which is a point of sale to help with showrooming. So maybe there's a couple words here. You're like, oh, what does that all mean? Showrooming is when people come into your physical retail store, if you have one, and start just looking around like, okay, touchy, feely, squeezy, and walk out. And, you know, let's say everybody pretty much has done that at some point in time. And then they went at home and bought it. Now, what happens is, obviously, in some cases, people then may buy it somewhere else, you know. And so what Shopify is doing is they're effectively created a system where if somebody's in your store and you engage them, say how you know, and you kind of start get a conversation going, and then try to get the information, and often, especially if you're offering them a deal on something, then you can send to that person an email, and it's effectively a checkout reminder system. You know, it's really like online checkout, you know, the abandoned checkout a scheme, and they just put it into the physical world. Again, this is for people who have physical stores. In their case, they use the mattress store as an example, which is perfect, you know, places like that. Also, sometimes when it comes to higher dollar items, some people do want to go home and remeasure or do something, and that's fair. So therefore, you keep them engaged and trying to get them back. So I think it's kind of a cool idea to do. eBay, I mean, Amazon put out this list on November 1st. Here's what we're all doing, and it's just all over the board, and 50 days of deals and blah, blah, blah. Well, eBay also, November 1st, started out with shopping first minute early deals, which is like a 9-day program. It appears they went with some bigger sellers and made some deals with them to offer some really good discounts on some items. It's definitely worth checking out from a buying point of view. Yep. From a seller point of view, I think maybe if this is the future, I mean, the daily deals has been around for years, but if they're going to continue to do things like that, maybe it's time to talk with eBay about how to get into daily deals. This is an opportunity to have them promote for you. You know, obviously you got to look at costs and profit margins there, but just more of eBay's doing things this year for Christmas.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that Amazon do very well. They let you submit your deal proposal through Seller Central. eBay, you don't really have a function to do that. Like, well, here in the UK, daily deals and weekly deals was something which you needed often an account manager at eBay for, in order to communicate what you had and if there was a spot available, could you get on there? For the Joe Public seller, there was no way of knowing how to go about that process.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit hidden. I think they're trying to, maybe part of it is they're working on making it better, and they don't want to get inundated with too many people.
Yeah,
I don't know,
sure.
you know. Then Etsy also had there was a lot of Etsy news last week. Etsy is testing a new feature to display listings that offer quick shipping. Again, it's one of those odd things for Etsy because a lot of their sellers aren't particularly the quick shipping kind, because they do one-offs, and it's maybe sometimes even requires customization. But then again, there are people who have, you know, stuff to sell, it's ready to go, and if you are one of those sellers, and then here's an opportunity to get up in front and center with it. This is a test. It is rolling out. It is a limited test. But I would say that once they get a little feedback, I think they're going to introduce this as a permanent feature. Quick shipping is such an important part to e-commerce today. I would be very surprised if this doesn't make it into the search results to boost quick shipping searches. Maybe Etsy is a little more concerned because of some of the customized sellers might get handed on this. So I don't know, you know, what issues they have to overcome to make it fair for everybody. We had a story last week about UPS saying they're going to do 750 million parcels in the United States alone. FedEx put out a press release saying we're going to do 400 million parcels globally. FedEx is slightly smaller, than UPS in total volume, but 400 million packages globally
not
is
to be sniffed at, for sure.
Yeah. Then an interesting piece, came out from Adobe Analytics. They did a study, and 107 billion is their estimate for total online sales this year in the United States. That's a huge number. When you read through this article, lots of huge increases. Definitely just shows that e-commerce just keeps taking in market share one way or another. A lot of data in there, so if you go to the link, that's best. And another study came across was Facebook reigns supreme for social media e-commerce attribution. It's a company called, let me get them, because they basically deal with social influencers, open influence. Social media influencers, they basically are sort of a hiring agency, a talent agency. You figure at some point in time somebody would do that. And they actually work with major companies like Ford, Coca-Cola, and others to match influencers with these companies to get product out there. And so they did a study on where it works best. And when you look at the numbers, Facebook is way up there. I mean, way ahead of everybody. The second one is Instagram, which Facebook owns. I mean, Twitter and Snapchat and all the other stuff, it's like, it's not even a factor almost. So if you're going to concentrate on one channel, Facebook, if you can deal with Instagram, or you have a big commerce or Shopify store which has the shoppable links on Instagram, which I think would definitely improve conversion.
I've seen a lot of those popping up over the past 2 weeks on mine.
Yeah. Yes.
They're getting more and more popular. And I mean, you can't argue with the numbers. I mean, Facebook have a monthly user base of over 2 billion, a daily user base of over 1 billion. It's crazy numbers. It's by, like you said, by far the biggest. And if you're going to do social on anyone, the chances are you're better off on Facebook, just because that's where the audience is.
Absolutely. And then I got two more lightning round items here. Both of them are for Amazon. First one is Amazon was scaling back Amazon Fresh in several states. They sent some notices, some emails to some folks, and it sort of blew up into this big story. No one really knows exactly what it's about. Amazon refuses to comment, more or less. Has nothing to do with Whole Foods Market. So I don't know. It could be just maybe they've identified certain neighborhoods, because they're not saying, okay, we're going out of, let's say, Los Angeles, out of a certain city. There's specific neighborhoods they're pulling out of this. So either they're not getting enough traction there, or there's a Whole Foods nearby that they're going to convert into a delivery. Who knows? It's just they're not being a bit coy about it. So just keep watching what, Amazon Fresh has never really caught on that much to start with, so I always figured that would be the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, in this whole
when Whole Foods came along. Yeah.
And then this was a tweet from Jeff Bezos.
This confused me as well, this.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's like I saw it on I literally saw it come across on my phone because he's one of the people I have to send me a notification when he tweets, and I'm like, Jeff Bezos congratulates Best Buy on integrating an Alexa skill. And I went, what? Why? This is a competing entities for all practical purposes. They both sell electronics. Why would he do that? And I mean, I know that Best Buy has been selling for a while, Amazon Kindles and Fires and all. I mean, they even have now sort of a point of purchase display. I mean, they're in the stores, not at the same level as the Apple displays are, not at this, not that size. Or I think some stores have Samsung displays or Microsoft displays as well. But it starts making you wonder. It's like, why he doesn't really talk about stuff like that normally. Most of his tweets are either some internal company stuff that he finds cool, that's why I like to read what he has to say on Twitter, or he'll do things about his space exploration. And then comes this, and it's like, there's thousands of Alexa skills. Why Best Buy? And obviously starts the speculation. Is Amazon looking to buy Best Buy?
The next acquisition, yeah.
The next acquisition.
The other thing is always, I always just pictured in my head, because I have always said, and this is by no means a representation of the people who work at Amazon, but here in UK, as a marketplace, Amazon just come across as fantastically arrogant, to the point where I was at a conference once and there was someone from Amazon on the stage, and a lady put her hand up, just basically stood up and started shouting at this guy saying, you should incentivize us as sellers to sell on your platform. And the guy just turned around and went, he basically said, we don't need to incentivize you. It's an invitation to sell on our platform. We're quite happy without you. And it was like that arrogance of Amazon. I just picture that with this tweet. Is like someone saying, why would Jeff Bezos congratulate their competition for integrating an Alexa skill? I just picture like Amazon going, Best Buy aren't competition. Arrogance of being like, they're a dot on our map sort of thing. They don't, who knows?
I'll agree with you to some extent there. The only thing I'll throw out is that, I mean, excuse me, Best Buy has done a pretty good job dealing with e-commerce. And if of any other big retailers, they do a good job. And they're represented pretty much in all the states. And
they tried to come to the UK a few years ago.
Yeah. And I just wonder if this is some kind of collaboration in the works to offer Amazon products that you can buy on Amazon.com, but then can pick them up at Best Buy because they got all the Amazon stuff.
Yeah,
there.
you got the tablets and the
tablet stuff. And one thing that Best Buy is also pretty good at is returns. You start the process relatively quickly, and those people that they have at the counter actually know what they're looking at. They double check, make sure everything is in there. So you wonder, is there more to this? And that's kind of, I don't think that they would buy Best Buy. I think there would be some FTC issues that would pop up, the regulatory group. And also I think that the price tag is pretty high, especially after buying Whole Foods. It's and I will throw something out for which we do not have a story yet that I may or may not turn into a story, but there's some interesting thing going on with Whole Foods, Targets, and others. Amazon or Whole Foods is running into some issues when it comes to leases, because a lot of times in the United States, when a store has a lease and there's another anchor store in there, for example, Kohl's or Macy's or Target or something like that, they can put things into their leases saying, you cannot lease to companies that do this, 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 and this. And one of the things that's popping up now a few times is the issue of these lock boxes and pickup boxes. Then there's also oh well, they can't sell electronics. So the company lawyers at some of these other outfits that may have a Whole Foods in their mall are kind of now digging through their leases. Is Amazon or is this Whole Foods even allowed to do what Amazon wants them to do? You know, I think it's a little bit of a gamesman play, but maybe this is just something to put out there. You know what? If you guys are gonna mess with us, we'll come up with some other way, because if you're selling electronics and they're part of a small, you can't stop them, right?
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. Very fair point. Which brings us on nicely to the discussion round today, which is also two Amazon pieces. That's a lot of Amazon news this week.
Yeah.
Now the first one, Richard, is that Amazon has now launched AR View on its app for iOS 11 and iPhone 6s or later. So AR View, what's this all about then?
Well, this is their attempt now to, to take effectively a item that you find on Amazon that you search for and are able to put it into a, into a picture frame on your smartphone that you took it home, so you can see how this item would look. This is a limited, it was funny. This particular AR View thing, I noticed it when they put out a press release about the 50 days of shopping. They're in the middle of the press release, like 2/3 of the way down. There's all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, wait a second, let me reread that. It's like, this is like news by itself, and it wasn't really put out for like another hour or two after that they are actually doing this. So I was really somewhat surprised and taken back by that. It's like, why would they not put that out at the same time, or put that out first and put out the marketing, So in any case, so AR View is, and it apparently is US only, because there was a Canadian press release put out for the holiday season that was virtually identical to the US one, except there was nothing in there about AR View. Right. So I have the feeling that this was purely for US. So, it's the next step. It's the step where you can now look at items and place them in your home, virtually, to see, will this fit, from a stylistic point of view. You don't have to go, like we were joking last week, you don't have to go through 8 miles of IKEA to look at things and then trying to figure out, does that work or not, So now you can just do it on Amazon. Yeah, this looks good. I think this will fit right here, So
I think out of all the things that we've seen sort of recently, everyone mentioned VR and how we could utilize that in e-commerce. I think VR is still a long way away, because you largely need hardware. You need the goggles. You need.
Well, this is augmented. This is augmented.
Exactly. VR I think AR is taking off so quickly, because we all have phones. And that's the difference. Is obviously VR, we need goggles or something to get the full experience. With AR, we don't need that. We've already got the device that we need. So I think it's curious. I like it. I'd like to get hands on with it and give it a try, and see how sort of intuitive it actually is.
But I need to steal the iPhone from my daughter.
We don't admit to having iPhones.
No, we admit to having Android phones, and unfortunately, right now this is on iPhone only.
I know. Damn it! God damn it, Amazon. Yeah. But I love how it's going. And again, I think AR along with voice is going to be some of the major sort of developments that we're going to see in 2018. For sure. Voice search for shopping, and now AR. I'm excited by what these things are actually going to bring to the market in terms of e-commerce, because again, it's going to be the early adopters are the ones that are going to win here. It's the ones who learn how it works from the beginning, the sellers who are up to date with what's going on, and start experimenting with Alexa skills, start trialing product modeling so they can be put onto AR. I think those are the businesses which are going to do very well over the next year.
You know, and I mean, we had the article earlier, we talked about smartphones. I just wonder if we're going to get to a point where you don't do this anymore, where you just sit there and talk with the thing, with the phone, and then so Amazon, find me this, or take a picture, like with eBay. Oh, okay, here's what I'm looking for. Then find some examples. And then you find the examples and say, okay, I like the top one or the second one. Keep scrolling. You know, you just talk to the phone and starts doing all this, and then it just starts doing everything on the phone. I mean, I'm really starting to wonder if we see Apple already is doing away with the home button. A lot of the phones now from even Android phones don't have home buttons per se anymore. I mean, they're still, it's a part of the screen. There's talk about doing fingerprints, obviously on the glass. On the glass, you have the iPhone already doing the headshot. I wonder if in 5 years the way we use these things will be completely different than what it is today. And then all of this, what we're seeing right now being tested on the e-commerce side of it, is just going to roll into everything we do. But it might be driven from e-commerce being able to do these things. I don't know. It's really, I agree, totally, really exciting stuff, really cool stuff.
And ultimately, it's the same with anything. Convenience is what's going to win. If it makes my life easier, then that's what I'm going to start doing. And we can see that that's been the theme throughout e-commerce. The first big adapter was the mobile. As soon as we started realizing that, I can actually shop on this now. I don't need to go to my computer, go to my laptop. I can pick up my emails here. I can go shopping here. It became easier. And now if it's a case of, like, for example, with the smart speakers, if I don't even need to pull my phone out, I go, Alexa, order me this. Yeah, it's on its way. You're a Prime member. It'll be here tomorrow. Happy. I've not even had to touch a device. Convenience is always going to win.
Well, and that brings me to what I keep saying, and I know it's like you sit there and wonder, but where does it leave the typical small business shop owner? Running a Magento or WooCommerce shop. You're not going to be able to do this on $30 hosting. No.
And the technology involved in having to do this. If someone could build an extension which makes this easier, they're going to make a lot of money. But right now, it's like, how does anybody get started with building an AR app for their e-commerce store? Or, the Alexa skill's not too complicated. I've had a look at that myself. For small businesses, that's not too much of a stretch. But, again, that's only for Amazon. How do you get involved with Google or any of the other smart devices which are coming out?
Very good point, Very interesting times ahead when it comes to visual and voice shopping, but I think we're getting there.
We are.
So this one is actually one I posted this morning. This is a very odd one. It popped up over the weekend. I believe it was initially the Wall Street Journal that reported it, and it was then picked up by a couple other major news outlets. And I went digging. What is going on here is Amazon apparently is taking products from third-party marketplace sellers and discounting them without telling the sellers about it. And it does it in a way. Amazon is paying for the discount, so the discount is not being brought down. You're still getting your share. If your share is $30 before, after discount, it's the same. It does not impact your, what Amazon pays you. They're basically taking it out of their fees. The samples or examples I found were all sold only by third-party marketplace sellers. They were not. It did not appear to involve any, fulfilled by Amazon. Sold by and fulfilled by Amazon. Only fulfilled by Amazon. They were FBA products. And I bring up in the story, I bring up the point of there are some legal implications in the United States when it comes to price policies. I think the EU does not have these exemptions for price. You can call it price fixing or price management, whatever you want to call it. But manufacturers in the United States can issue a pricing policy saying you must advertise this item at $100. And if you don't advertise at $100, you can't use our images and you're not an authorized dealer, blah, 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 blah. They can also say you must sell this item at $100. Same thing. But once you sell them below that price point, you could be cut off. And by law, by the interpretation of the law, you must be cut off for good. So if a manufacturer says you must sell an item at $100 and you sell it for 92 and they catch you selling it for 92, you are cut off for good. There is no reprieve because it's called the Colgate principle. Under Colgate, it must be unilateral. It must be you are no longer a dealer. You're cut off. Under the MAP price policy, that you can have warnings and discount reductions and things like that. There are some other legal parts, but I don't want to get too heavy here. But it made me wonder. Now, if Amazon sells a product, they are aware of these price policies because for years they've battled manufacturers on them, and they pretty much lost the case. They've tried to get around them, and pretty much after every major manufacturer kind of says, you want to go to Supreme Court with this because that's been there before and it's been accepted as valid, go ahead, and I think Amazon finally realized they're not going to win that battle. So it does, bring up an interesting point, and now what about your own products? Okay, if you get something made in China or you make it yourself locally, in your own shop, yeah, you could, you might be able to have some agreements with other sellers that you're selling to, saying, okay, you cannot sell this item below that, but all of a sudden your listing on Amazon gets discounted, and then you have potential customers that get unhappy. So there's a lot of oddity in this, and I don't know how widespread this is, but apparently it came about over the weekend. It was found out, and Amazon is not talking, which is not a surprise.
This is very curious. Like I said, there's a number of things at play here because, like I said, I mean, here in UK, we don't have the same, like you said, we don't have the same laws and legality around pricing. I think the attitude here is if you've managed to buy a product as a seller, what you sell it for is up to you. And obviously manufacturers some manufacturers were didn't like that at all. Like Ping, for example, the golf manufacturer, they would never sell to anyone or never allow anyone to sell on marketplaces because they wanted to control the price of their products. I believe
we have that here. I know for sure one of my previous vendors in the business. Actually, I know of two vendors that flat out in their dealer contract say you cannot sell on Amazon.
Yeah, and obviously, I believe now I think it might have been an EU law that got passed, deemed that if a seller had bought a product from a manufacturer, it was up to them what they sold it for because they own the product. So, and ultimately the profit margin they wanted to take was up to them. So again, I don't believe we have that same. I may be wrong, and please, if you know me to be incorrect, please let me know in the comments.
I think you're right because I've looked at the EU law before.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's more open. I believe Canada allows MAP policies. They may not allow the Colgate policy, but I'm pretty sure they allow minimum advertised price policies. And in a MAP policy, you just advertise at $100 and you can sell at any price. That's usually what most people do. Yeah. Colgate is a lot more difficult to enforce, and some of the manufacturers don't want to go down the path of having to make those type of decisions to cut off a dealer, Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, this is confusing for a number of reasons. It's like, well, if you are a seller and you see Amazon discounting your product, part of you is like, well, yeah, that's great. I'm getting the sale. I'm still making the same money. Everything's good. Amazon's taking the hit on it for whatever reason. Or is it now, like you say, is it a case where, oh no, what if, for example, with the board game, Mattel find out that, I've sold this product under the agreed selling price? Are they going to come after me because I'm technically the seller, but I've had no control over what Amazon have done to the price?
Well, and then even worse is what about if Amazon, you sold 20, 30 of these pieces, especially going through Christmas. All of a sudden, Amazon decides we're going to discount it by 8%. Now you have customers that might come back. Oh, can I get the 8% discount?
Yeah, what 8% discount?
What 8% discount? You know, you might not even know. It's like all of a sudden you see a you see a sales.
Yeah, because I guess on your order page it's going to come through at the full price.
You know, it's interesting. I wish there would be
unless it comes through at a discounted price and Amazon add it on as like an extra in your like bi-weekly or monthly invoice or whatever. I don't know.
Well, you know, the fact that they snuck this out without telling anybody, I find that very strange. You know, it's like one thing to go, hey, we're going to try this thing. If you want to participate in this program, let us know. And then you have all the people who want to participate. Now you know which sellers are willing to do that, you know. And I'm sure there would have been some sellers say, yeah, go ahead, discount my thing. As long as you're paying for it, I don't care, you know. And others would have said, no, I don't want you to do that, you know. So, and the one definite, well, I don't say anything is definite about this, but the one thing that was the same across the examples was that none of them had stock at Amazon, as far as Amazon itself having stock.
Yeah. It wasn't Amazon discounting Amazon products. It was Amazon discounting sellers' products that were in FBA.
And they were and apparently they were trying to price match products to other websites such as Walmart or Ulta or people like that. So here they are price matching other websites, which that does take a little bit out the possibility that they're going below a map policy, because these other major sites probably know the need to apply. But you know, errors happen. I mean, we've seen
prices going wrong. Yeah.
So you never know, you know. And if Amazon's using, you know, repricing software to check major websites, and all of a sudden somebody does something wrong, boom, you know, I don't know. It's just the whole thing. Is this really worth it for the market share?
It's a curious one. And like I said, I've never seen this before. I know Flubbit here in the UK marketplace, they used to do this. Like, you told Flubbit what your minimum sell price was, and Flubbit could decide to sell it for less than that, but Flubbit would pay the difference. But yeah, Amazon doing this is very curious. Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what to think about it. Again, if you're listening to this and have any thoughts, please let us know, either in the YouTube comments or over on the website, because this is unusual.
I mean, if this is a limited test and this is just, you know, now that they've been found out and they're going to stop it, fine, that's one thing. Or come out and say, okay, here's what we're trying to do. But we know Amazon doesn't communicate very well.
They're not great with the sharing of testing and everything else, for sure.
Yeah, so this is just, it just seems kind of cheesy for how much market share could they gain by selling a couple $20 or $30 items that
for $2 off or whatever. Yeah,
it's just like, I mean, is it just, I don't know. I just find it just seems like it opens up an awful lot of can of worms for no reason, and I don't even see what. I mean, but it goes back to what you're saying earlier with Amazon has a little bit of arrogance. Like, hey, well, you invited us. If you don't want this to happen on to your products, then don't sell them on our market.
Exactly. That's part of the terms and conditions. If you don't like it, leave. Yeah.
Don't like it, leave. You know. So.
And for a lot of people, Amazon is more than 50% of their business. So you know they can't afford to leave.
You can't afford to leave. I think people that sell their own products are mostly safe from this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, because
no one's going to tell them off. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that plus if you're selling your own products, unless you put all your products on different marketplaces and you're playing pricing games with yourself. I mean, let's face it, some sellers do that. You know,
sure.
I'll put it on eBay for, you know, $9. I'll have it on Amazon for $11 and on Walmart for $13 or something. I mean, people play these games themselves. You know, it's like, unless you're doing that, you know, that might be the only way that you could get, you know, screwed up on this. But I don't know. Just I wrote it up this morning. As soon as I kept reading more and more about it, it's like, you know, I think we need to get this out. Hopefully, you know, maybe get some people's feedback, because this is just it's just one of those bizarre, odd Amazon stories.
Yep, and we do get them. We do get them quite often. So. With that said, guys, that's pretty much the eSellerCafe e-commerce show for today. I'm not going to run through everything that we talked about, because that would take another half an hour. But yeah, please, by all means, check out eSellerCafe.com. You'll find all the stories on there. We actually have the last 14 days in e-commerce on the homepage. Click that. That will give you the last, all the stories in chronological order.
Plus all the press releases that came out during that period of time, which
course,
we do curate. We don't put every press release up there. We do try to make it stuff that's
relevant stuff, interesting stuff. Richard, any heads up of what we've got coming up this week?
Well, we're going to have a little change in the front page again, where we're going to highlight the new podcasts that you're doing, that you're working on. Do a little bit more with the video, so media center stuff. Well, last couple of weeks, how much news can there be?
It's been breaking news, hasn't it? It's just been like, this is happening. This is so we've not been, the planning stuff hasn't really been utilized that much. All of it has been, oh, this is happening. This is happening. The one thing that I would quite like to delve into, because I think it's a hot topic right now, and a topic which not a lot of people fully understand, myself included, is Bitcoin. Because last week it got announced that Amazon had registered 3 domains, I think: Amazon Ethereum, Amazon Bitcoin, Amazon cryptocurrencies, all.com. Which is
but they already own Bitcoin.
They already own Bitcoin, and they added 3 more. And
I have something on the board about that. And I'll just say this: I think Amazon just registered those domain names for just to have them. I don't think they're going to do anything with cryptocurrencies. And here's my general take on cryptocurrencies, and that'll be part of the article. Right now, Bitcoin is $7,149. Over the weekend, I actually look at it almost every day.
Yeah, I've been sort of following it as well. I find it fascinating.
Over the weekend, it was at $7,600.
Yeah.
Just a week ago, it was at $6,178.
There's rumors it could hit 8,000 this week.
You don't. The problem is it's too volatile. Now you can sit there and say, "Oh, the direction is always up," but it's been always up because there has been news. Like when the thing is, it's very reactive to news.
Yes.
That's the biggest problem with cryptocurrencies. It's not like, yeah, sure, stocks. There can be negative news on a stock or on a company in a stock market, and it brings it down. But there's fundamentals in stock that you can look at. You can say, this is the P&L, the profit and loss. These fundamentals don't exist with this is purely. And I've actually talked to some people who are in the financial world about this. And they all say the same things, like, there's just nothing fundamental here. None of this makes any sense. This is going to Las Vegas.
The interesting thing that I've done a little bit of reading. I speak to people who are somewhat involved in it, and what I find fascinating is there is a finite amount of Bitcoin. I think it's 21 million Bitcoins that there is. So there can never be more than that. Unlike with money, which obviously you can always print more and make more money. With Bitcoin, you can't do that, which makes it sort of deflationary, which means that with supply and demand, the supply is never going to increase. So if demand increases, the price goes up, which is what we're seeing right now due to hype from different news sources and all the rest of it. The other thing is that
people that keep creating new coins, and there's other coins.
Oh, all the altcoins and stuff. I fully don't understand the value there. Same with Ethereum. I believe that's slightly different in how it works, but the thing that I'm not sure that the true financial stock market guys fully understand Bitcoin. I don't think anybody does, because one of the apparent crypto experts I was speaking to said Bitcoin is either worth nothing or a hell of a lot more than what it's currently priced at. But we don't know. So it is like you said, it's like going to Vegas. Who knows what's going to happen next?
eSellerCoin.
eSellerCoin, yeah. The first e-commerce coin, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's a task for this week. No,
I'll see if I can. I have a lot of articles on Bitcoin. I've actually had a draft on some things there. I'll see if I can put it together.
I think just with the Amazon piece getting involved, and there was rumors Alibaba might start taking Bitcoin. So
to give it a fair shake, it's a very hard piece to write. And there was so much news going on with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was just like, okay, I can't give it really the fair shake that I wanted to. I mean, I gave you the my 3 minutes of it, which
Yeah.
may be completely wrong by the time I do more research on it. You know, it's just one of those. I agree with you. It's you know, what does it mean for e-commerce? I mean, right now I think it's. I will say this: if you look at the e-commerce people that are taking Bitcoin, most of them are selling secondary goods, meaning they're not first-line goods, or if they are first-line goods, they're 2 or 3 year old stuff. You know, so they bought it on the budget market, and others that are doing it, they might be converting that money immediately to real
to dollars, pounds, whatever.
Yeah.
Because, but get this. This is again. We're going way off topic, but this is what we kind of love about the eSellerCafe news show, is that I actually know a friend of a friend. Their daughter goes to a private school somewhere in a very posh area in south of England. They actually take Bitcoin as a form of payment. The school, as an institution, this private school, take Bitcoin as tuition payments, as putting money on for school dinners, buying uniform. They take Bitcoin as currency.
They must have a few students that maybe shouldn't be in the country.
It's that, or they've got some very questionable parents who have too much Bitcoin.
You know, let's think about, you know, some of the Bitcoin is sort of, you know, rumored to be used in illicit trade, shall we say that?
Started off on the dark web, as that's how people bought things on Silk Road and everything else. So it's curious. But if it becomes a legitimate currency, then those drug dealers are going to be millionaires with all the Bitcoins in the wallet.
I don't know. It's definitely a very bizarre and curious payments.
I actually just got G Morgan jumped on the chat there. There are actually sellers on Etsy right now that will accept Bitcoin. Amazing. So it's already here. It's already in e-commerce. Thank you, G Morgan. I did not. I've not seen that myself, but maybe that's one to keep an eye on for the article, Richard. Etsy's already dabbling in Bitcoin.
There you go. Maybe I'll start the article with Etsy takes Bitcoin. I don't know.
Etsy on the dark web. Yeah, who knows?
Now you made me. I kind of pushed that to the side. Now I have to put it back.
Now you've got the fire again. You want to get talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like, because I look at it every day and I sit there and go like, oh yeah, I owned it once. $1,000.
Oh dear. Anyway, with that said, we were going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to us. Again, we'd love to hear your thoughts either over on YouTube, over on the website, eSellerCafe.com. Please let us know. And we'll be back with you next week for a new installment of the eSellerCafe news show. With that said, thank you, Richard, for taking time to join us today and for all your hard work this week or last week. Always a pleasure to have you here. And,
you did a lot of stories yourself. So it's we've had a pretty busy week. And you were working on other things behind the scenes, so don't take credit away from yourself.
No, it's very kind, sir. But with that said, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next Monday with the latest from the world of e-commerce. We'll see you then.
There you go. See you then. Bye-bye.